When I see a Pink Panther movie, I expect to laugh a lot, and always do. But I laughed the least of all in this latest installment, Trail of the Pink Panther. This is by all means the weakest of them all. The film is dedicated to Peter, the one and only Inspector Clouseau. It's almost sad to watch the film knowing he won't be back for any new adventures. And it's very obvious the film was put together after Sellers' death. What we get in this tale are outtakes and best-of moments from Sellers' role as the bumbling French detective. The story starts as the Pink Panther diamond is once again stolen. Clouseau is once again called in to solve the case. Setting all this up, they used the outtakes, and by that I mean scenes that were edited out of previous Pink Panther films due to time or whatever. One such scene is when Clouseau is trying on a disguise with Harvey Korman. Herbert Lom, as Chief Inspector Dreyfus, is getting hysterical again as Clouseau drives him crazy. Later, when Clouseau's plane is reported missing and he is feared dead, a TV reporter played by Joanna Lumley starts her own search and interviews Clouseau's friends, family, and enemies who knew him in previous films. They include David Niven, Richard Mulligan as Clouseau's father, and of course Bert Kwok as Clouseau's houseboy is still on the alert. All of Lumley's interviews are spiced with scenes that ended up on the cutting room floor of earlier Pink Panther movies. Now here we see Clouseau once again in an amusing misunderstanding about a single word.
You have for me the massage?
Oh, you want a massage, eh?
If you have one for me, yes.
Yeah. Why don't you try Tokyo Little, the end of the block? Ask for Passion Flower Shirley, the Yokohama butterfly.
And why should I do that?
Well, you want a massage, don't you?
Yes, but I want it from you.
Sir, I don't give massages.
But you gave me one only this morning.
See, you're mistaken.
Look, don't you try the tricks anglais with me, monsieur. I received the massage this morning from Inspector Quimland of the Yard of Scotland.
The massage!
And it was you that gave it to me.
Message!
What?
You mean message?
Look, I know what I mean, you lunatic.
The funniest bits from this movie are scenes from earlier Pink Panther flicks, such as A Shot in the Dark and The Pink Panther. On my rating scale, Trail of the Pink Panther gets only a 5. It's a disappointing adventure that is too odd. At the film's end, we do see a montage of some of Sellers' funniest and best routines. There isn't much to Trail of the Pink Panther except for the old footage and just a few of the newer, never-before-seen clips. And even after viewing those, I can understand why they edited them out in the first place. This film is good for one basic thing, and that it's a way Peter Sellers' great comic talents can live on forever. I'm Dino Lawley. With good intentions all the way, Clint Eastwood fails in trying to make Honky Tonk Man a good movie. In a change of pace, Eastwood plays a hard-drinking and struggling country singer during the Great Depression. But because the pace is slow, a script that's weak, no character interaction, and most of all, predictability, Honky Tonk Man just doesn't work. You can tell Eastwood really tried hard to tell a good story of an aging singer, but the effort falls short.
Maybe you're right.
Well, I try to be. Eastwood plays Red Stovall. He's on his way to Nashville to audition for the Grand Ole Opry. When he arrives in Oklahoma, he stops by his sister's and her family's farmhouse. They are very poor, but yet they're all happy to see Red. His sister's 14-year-old boy buddies up with Eastwood, who has several problems. He has TB, and he likes to drink a lot. It's obvious Eastwood needs someone to take care of him. His nephew, who is played by Eastwood's real-life son, is chosen to travel with him to Nashville. The rest of the film is devoted to their journey. We see the boy turning into a man and his uncle going downhill. Along the way, a young aspiring singer, Alexa Kennan, stows away in the trunk of their car. The boy knows she's in there, but no one else does. And when the car is stopped by an Oklahoma highway patrolman, they all discover their new passenger.
I put her there. I put her there because she wanted to go to Nashville with us, and Uncle Red wouldn't let her. She's my sister.
What are you doing in there, girl?
I put her there. She's my sister.
I didn't ask you, boy.
Well, see, it's just like the sister. See, Uncle Red there, he don't want to take me to Nashville. And
Get out of there. It's against law to ride in the trunk in this state. I don't suppose you got any ID either.
ID? ID about what?
Look, officer, these little devils did play a trick on me, but I think this is something we can settle all among
I'll have to
ourselves.
take you in.
Oh, please, officer. Gee, please don't take us to jail. I beg of you. Oh, I'd just do anything.
Shut up.
All the characters in the film are interesting separately, but they're never really given the chance to interact with each other and help the story. Eastwood does his best given his character and the surrounding problems of the film. In his first part, Eastwood's son, Kyle, does a fair job. The stowaway, Alexa Kennan, and the grandfather who accompanies the Eastwood gang on the trip, John McIntyre, are both good in their supporting roles. On my rating scale, Honky Tonk Man rates only a 4. There are some obvious flaws in the film. For example, when they're traveling to Enid, we see all these big, beautiful California mountains. There are no mountains that look like that in Oklahoma, folks. The one fault of this movie is from the beginning we can see clearly the inevitable conclusion. Everything is predictable, and thus what actually is a 2-hour movie feels more like 3 or 4. I'm Dino Lawley.
I'd like to do my introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Dino's program. My name's Tom Anzalone. And tonight I'll be at Joker's over here, and, well, maybe we shouldn't have done that this morning.
I understand you have a very different act. I think anything that's different is from the people that have appeared here so far.
All right, well, Dino, as you could tell by the suit, I quit the Pittsburgh Opera just to be here.
Just to be here?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
I know what's wrong with them. They're paying me for this stuff.
Well, okay, now, you have a strong background in opera?
Right. About two years I was with the Pittsburgh Opera Company, and then I was doing comedy on the side. Mm-hmm. And then it seemed I could get more work doing comedy with a mixture of opera.
Well, then comedy first entered into your act.
I used to sing and play guitar at clubs, and I used to play around and joke around with the audience in between all my songs. Mm-hmm. Then when I became a comedian, I just took out all my songs and just goofed around.
What kind of style? What's the style of comedy that you have?
A lot of impressions, song parodies, and a couple of original writings.
What are some of the impressions of, like famous people or impressions of?
Yeah, the music that I grew up with, folk singers, country stars, you name it, I'll probably ruin the song. The two distinctive characters that I grew up with was the late, great Elvis Presley and the recently heart bypassed Jerry Lewis. I'd like to do both of them at the same time for you right now.
Well, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show. Need to get ready now, go, Dean, go, but don't you step on my green blue shoes, the blue suede shoes. You can do anything but lay off of my shoes.
How's the show's been going so far?
Oh, they've been going great. There's only been one, and it's good. The crowd here has been very nice. The people have been very good. It just seems nice. Nice people here.
Do you find these Oklahoma audiences any different than any of the audiences you played to?
Not really, except they're shorter, these people. They're a lot shorter, the people in Oklahoma. I don't know why, but they seem shorter, and they dance during the show. This is something strange.
It could be a problem, though.
Yeah, especially during a comedy show.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Where are you from originally? How's the show's been going so far?
Oh, they've been going great. There's only been one, and it's good. The crowd here has been very good. Nice people here.
Do you find these Oklahoma audiences any different than any of the audiences you played to?
Not really, except they're shorter, these people. people in Oklahoma. I don't know why, but they seem shorter.
Where are you from originally, Mark?
Well, originally I'm from the Bronx, New York, and I grew up in New York and lived there my whole life with my parents until they finally moved out, got their own place.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
They was a drag, have them around the house all the time.
How'd you get the message across for them to move out? Was it like, were you
I
throwing
just
those hints, or?
I just said, leave. Time to go, you know, I mean.
You've been here for a lot of years.
You've been here for over 30 years, and don't you think it's time you move out and start up your own life somewhere?
What did your parents think when you told them that you wanted to be a stand-up comedian?
They said, go to Oklahoma. That's really where it's at. If you want to do stand-up, you go to Oklahoma, and you give it everything you got. You know, when I first started, my parents didn't really, they didn't like the idea. First was, you know, like, because you want to be a comedian? What is that? You know, nobody knows, nobody understands that.
Do you write your own material?
Yeah, I write everything that I say, and every move I make, I write that. I wrote that blinking of the eye. I wrote that. I wrote it again. See, I wrote that too. Everything is written, yeah, by me.
A lot of the comedians that are out these days making the clubs and so forth, how many of them do write their own material? Do any of them have?
Yeah, a lot of them have writers that, yeah, they buy material, buy jokes, things like that. It's very expensive to buy material. It's like from a real good comedy writer, it might be $500 a page for material.
Do you consider your comedy an art form? How do you look at it?
I do, but I'm the only one. Most people, yeah, I do, absolutely, because the more I get involved with it, the more, I mean, it gets deeper and shallow.
Do you move around a lot on stage, or are you one of those performers that basically stands in one spot, or do you like to move around a lot?
Yeah, I do keep moving a lot. My sort of thing, too, has a lot of energy in it, so I am, you know, I'm all over here, there, everywhere. And I want to thank you for this break.
No problem at all.
This is...
It's my pleasure.
It's unbelievable. I mean, my whole life, you know, they said, you've got to be on Dino's show. And I said, I don't think I can get on. I mean, and they said, you got to, man, you got to. It's going to make your career.
Well, now that I've made his career, Mark will be appearing tonight through Sunday at Joker's. I'm Dino Lolly. "1982 was an unusual year for films. There weren't a lot of great ones around, a few, but not many. There were several good ones, and along with those, some wonderful performances. Now, just making a list of my 10 favorite movies was difficult. And after changing and switching some around, I finally came up with this list, starting with number 10 and working up, Diner. This movie is an original and irresistible comedy about life in the late 1950s. Everything centers around an all-night diner and 5 close friends in Baltimore. The guys are in their late 20s and resisting the need to grow up, yet preparing in one way or another to face the real world, such as responsibility and marriage. Writer-director Barry Levinson has fantastic recall and gets great performances out of his young actors. Diner is a very appealing film whose greatest virtue is giving us back our memories of that era. My selection for number 9 is a political thriller called Missing. The film is supposed to be based on a true story, yet it does lack some credibility. It's about the 1973 Chilean coup. Jack Lemmon and Sissy Spacek put in powerful performances. And although the film does lack some credibility, it is exciting and filled with urgency and importance. The World According to Garp is my selection for number 8. Director George Roy Hill did a wonderful job of adapting a complicated and distinctive novel into a film.
My name is T.S. Garp.
What's TS stand for?
Terribly sexy. I used to be terribly shy, but I changed.
Garp is a lovable, funny, and tragic movie. There are some great performances in this emotional roller coaster film by Robin Williams, Jenny Close, Mary Beth Hurt, and John Lithgow. Number 7 is Blade Runner, I think one of the year's most underrated films. This visually dazzling and futuristic endeavor has great detail. The only thing that suffers in Blade Runner is the story. Technically, it's great, at times brilliant, but it could use some sharpening story-wise. Harrison Ford stars as an almost lifeless hero fighting non-human replicants. My selection for number 6 is An Officer and a Gentleman, an old-fashioned audience appeal movie. An Officer and a Gentleman is an absorbing, sexually charged melodrama set against a military training background. This was the surprise hit of the summer, and although the ending is a bit mushy and phony, it has audiences cheering. Richard Gere, David Keith, and Deborah Winger are great, but the one to see in this one is Lou Gossett Jr. He portrays, brilliantly I might add, a Marine drill sergeant.
Come on, man, you're about as close to being office material as me.
Sir, this candidate believes it would make a good officer.
No way, Mayo, no way. You don't give a shit about anybody but yourself. And every one of your classmates knows it. You think they trust you behind the controls of a plane that they'd have to fly in? Come on, man, I picture you as the kind of guy that would zip off one day in my F-14 and sell it to the Cubans, right?
No, sir. No, sir. I love my country.
Sell it to the Air Force, Mayo. Sell it to the Air Force.
An Officer and a Gentleman has done very well at the box office. It has grossed over $100 million. Now, out of the top 10 best of 1982, those are the bottom 5. Next time, I'll look at the top 5, along with some honorable mentions. I'm Dino Lolly. Here are the top 5 on the list of my 10 favorite movies of 1982. And starting with number 5, I have Poltergeist. So if you want regular, flat-out, hair-raising fright, this film gives full value. As far as the story goes, well, it could be a little weak. But the bottom line is this is a horror film that entertains. Containing impressive special effects, Poltergeist was another big hit of the summer. At number 4 is a very familiar and current movie called Tootsie.
No one will hire you.
Boy, was he wrong. Tootsie is the year's best comedy. It is very, very funny. Starring Dustin Hoffman, the film is not a one-joke endeavor about a man who dresses up like a woman. It shows a valuable sensitivity and brings long overdue observations about relationships between men and women in the 1980s. Number 3 is My Favorite Year, starring Peter O'Toole. This sentimental and robust comedy takes us back to the days of live television in the 1950s, and O'Toole is a fading 50s film star. My Favorite Year is fast-paced, well-acted, and well-directed. A foreign film is number 2. Das Boot, or Das Boot, whichever you prefer, is a German film about a U-boat crew in 1941. This is one of the most realistic and authentic movies I've ever seen. It is so well made, you start to feel claustrophobic by just watching. Das Boot is a great action film and a powerful anti-war statement. And finally, my number 1 choice for the best film of 1982, in case you haven't already figured it out, is E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Thank you. I know some people, because of all the commercialization the film generated, are tired of hearing E.T., but forget that for now. Remember how it made you laugh and cry. It's a movie that has a stirring blend of suspense, comedy, and juvenile fantasy, along with examples of love, trust, and friendship. It is almost a healing film.
I'm keeping him.
Director Steven Spielberg has touched the child in all of us, and at the same time touched some box office records. E.T. has made $310 million. The industry itself grows close to $3.4 billion. That's billion with a B, and that's up 15% over 1981. And those are my top 10 favorite movies of 1982. I would like to have some films under an honorable mention category, and those are Man from Snowy River, Road Warrior, Quest for Fire, Tron, and The Chosen. There are 2 films which have yet to open in Oklahoma City, Gandhi and Sophie's Choice, and therefore they were not considered when my list was made. Now next time I'll take a look at some of the sequel hits of last year. I'll have a couple of awards to give out, and I also have a list of the top 10 worst movies of 1982, and I'll tell you what to expect in the movie theaters in 1983. I'm Dino Lolly. '82 definitely had its share of bad movies. It was as tough making this list of the worst films of '82 as it was making the best films list. And I'll say one thing, I certainly had a lot to choose from in the bad films category. And I will proceed as I did with my other list by starting with number 10 and working up. And at number 10, I have Zapped. One of those movies that I don't think could be any dumber. Well, it could try, that's for sure. Scott Baio plays a somewhat reserved high school egghead. He accidentally causes a chemical experiment to explode, and zap, he has telekinetic powers. And before I go on, I'll just show you what I said about zapped when the movie opened. No, it isn't. Everything in this movie is stupid, dumb, tasteless, unimaginative, and feeble-minded. Well, that pretty well sums it up. At number 9 is Cheech and Chong's Things Are Tough All Over. This movie is full of tired jokes and routines and simply shows that Cheech and Chong have run out of gas. This whole film looks as if it was impromptu. The level of humor is incredibly rank and is insulting to anyone's intelligence. As I said last year, now we all know things are tough all over. We certainly don't need to see this dumb movie to find that out. That away, you tell them, son. In the number 8 slot is Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D. This movie is just another chip off the horrifying block. Part 3 is abominable, atrocious, and let's see, what else is wrong with it? But to compound the injury in this case, Part 3 is filmed in 3D. You have to wear these stupid glasses, and they're so poorly done that the end result is a headache for members of the audience. You get a lot of this in the movie. You get right up into the camera, some real good stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah, I know what you mean. I've been there. Now, you think I'm joking, but that effect is pretty close to what the film really looked like. In Part 3, you've got a bunch of young, naive, and I hate to use the word, but stupid kids who go up to a camp where 2 mass murders have taken place. It's then a waiting game to see how and when they will meet Jason, the killer. Friday the 13th, Part 3 is a 3D flop. Number 7 is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
You don't really know much about Halloween.
I know plenty, bub. I know it was wrong of you to be in this film, and I know I didn't like it. 2 people, Tom Atkins and Stacy Nelkin, are investigating some mysterious deaths when they come across a sinister toy manufacturer played by Dan O'Herlihy. He is planning to victimize the nation by murdering thousands of children wearing his Halloween mask. How is he going to do it? By electronic device, of course. Halloween 3 is a lame-brain horror flick that's pretty worthless. Amityville 2, The Possession, is number 6. What a poor excuse for a movie. It's an obscenely vicious performance that, well, is pretty weak and downright embarrassing. Now, this is actually a prequel because this movie tries to reconstruct the mass murder that took place in the house, leaving it empty for the family who was terrorized by the evil spirits in the first movie, The Amityville Horror. Confusing, isn't it? It is. The special effects are cliché and become very tiresome after a while. Part 2, The Possession, contains such wonderful and mesmerizing dialogue as this. Actually, Rutanya Aldo was screaming because she just read the script of this movie, which, by the way, contains gratuitous violence. When I reviewed the movie, I described it like this. This movie is not scary, it is not worth your time or money, it is stupid, it is dull, and it should be repossessed. Repossessed, get it? The movie's called The Possession. Never mind. Well, next time I will continue with the top 5 worst movies of 1982. Possessed. See, the movies... Never mind. I'm Dino Lawley. There is one movie whose Oklahoma City premiere was this evening that has received a lot of publicity. The film is Gandhi. It has also received critical acclaim, and having seen it myself, I agree with that praise in saying it is a very impressive and inspiring film. It's the portrait of Mohandas K. Gandhi, who rose from Indian lawyer to one of the world's great men of peace. This story of the father of passive resistance is told in a straightforward and fascinating manner. Actor Ben Kingsley gives a magnificent performance as the Mahatma. I will review Gandhi in more detail next week. There are a couple of re-releases out now that, if you missed them the first time around, are worth your consideration. The first being Text, a Walt Disney film about how 2 teenage boys are more or less abandoned and are forced to make it on their own. The setting is a small Oklahoma town. Now, this is not your typical Walt Disney picture. Showing a realistic view of teenage life growing into maturity is what sets this film apart from other Disney efforts. Starring Matt Dillon, Text is rated PG on their scale and a 7 on mine. The other re-release is The Man from Snowy River, an exciting adventure saga for the entire family. The film was wonderfully acted and directed and stars Kirk Douglas, Tom Burleson, Jack Thompson, and Sigrid Thornton. There is a complex plot and a stallion straight out of mythology. The Man from Snowy River is rated PG, and my rating is 9. And for the people who still haven't seen them, I can highly recommend Tootsie, 48 Hours, The Verdict, and The Dark Crystal. And that's it for now. I hope you have a nice movie-watching weekend. Until next week, I'm Dino Lawley. All right, here we go as we continue with the 10 worst films of '82, in my opinion. And starting with number 5, we have Inchon. Reverend Sun Myung Moon is listed as special advisor, and it's easy to see his radically anti-communist attitude and right-wing politics in the movie. The storyline contains holes big enough to drive a tank through. And talk about poor editing. Inchon, of course, tries to show General Douglas MacArthur's preparations for the amphibious assault that reversed the momentum of battle in Korea in 1950. Those people jumping off the bridges, I think, just saw the movie, and that's how they reacted. All the performances are pathetic, with Sir Laurence Olivier at the top. Now, I'm a great fan of his, but his extremely painful, cadaverous impersonation of the general is just too much to handle. Number 4 is National Lampoon's Class Reunion. A disgracefully inept film, Class Reunion was one of the sloppiest movies of 1982. And by sloppy, I mean it seemed as if there were no foresight, no planning, no anything. The people just got an idea and went in front of the cameras and did it. This is supposed to be a comedy. There's nothing to laugh at or about in the film. The setting is against the 10th reunion of the 72 graduating class of the Lizzie Borden High School. To get revenge on his classmates for a practical joke played on him years before, a transvestite psycho starts bumping off people. Too bad he didn't bump off the makers of this ridiculous piece of celluloid.
I have a kind of fun idea.
Yeah, I do too. Next time, how about letting some competent people handle such a project? Number 3 is The Pirate Movie. Now, I received a lot of comment about the way I reviewed this movie. The Pirate Movie is supposed to be a modern retelling of Gilbert and Sullivan's classic operetta. But boy, did they mess that one up. It was tough sitting through this movie, and even tougher trying to review it, if you will recall. Hey, guys, I can't do this anymore. The movie was so bad, I can't talk about it anymore, okay? Is there something we can move on to?
You have to do the movie review.
No, you can't make me talk about the movie.
You have to do the movie review.
No, I don't want to. You can't make me do this thing.
To.
No.
We're going to go ahead and roll the clip. Here.
Right. The film stars Christy McNichol and Christopher Atkins seem lost in their roles, as does everyone else. And the movie itself, well, let's see, what did I say back then? And even that's overrating it. The Pirates movie's so bad, if World War III ever breaks out, we should make the captured enemy soldiers have to sit through it at least twice a week. They may need to increase that to 3 or 4. Grease 2 is number 2, and this movie was so bad it didn't even get a rating on my scale. Grease 2 contains, around 15 to 20 minutes of dialogue. The rest is singing and dancing.
I deserve a better fate. I'm really much too young to matriculate. Well,
I think they were motioning with their hands for everyone to get back because this movie's so bad. Let's see, how about listing the idiotic things in Grease 2? The choreography is a letdown, the direction is idiotic, the music is sickening and very forgettable, and the lyrics are a joke. I'm telling you folks, Grease 2 is a real bow wow. Oh, such a way with words. I won't even go into detail about Grease 2. It's stupid and I don't want to worry about it. So that brings us to number 1. Now, I cheated a little bit in putting this movie as being from 1982. The picture was made quite some time ago. I saw it last year, and the name of the film is Caligula, one of the most repulsive, disgusting movies I've ever seen. It's revolting, it's a loathsome movie, and can be best summed up like this. It's disgusting, repulsive, and offensive. Oh yes, the film Caligula is also a piece of trash. It's nice, you know, when I can use visuals like that to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Well, that's my list of the 10 worst movies of 1982. And now I would like for you, the viewers, to do me a favor. I've given you my list of the 10 best and worst movies of last year. I would like to see your choices of the 5 best and worst movies of 1982. This is your chance to be a movie critic. Just send your selections to You Pick the Flicks, Post Office Box 14068, Oklahoma City 73113. Now, any letters postmarked after January 31st will not be considered. What I will do is tabulate all the votes and let you know the final results on the air in a couple of weeks. I'm Dino Lawley. The funny ladies of the movies, actresses who have made hard times a whole lot easier to swallow with a spoonful of sugar and a screen full of laughter. Today it's hard times again, and to boost our morale, enter Gidget, or at least the actress who began as Gidget and grew up to walk away with an Oscar for Norma Ray. She's Sally Field, temporarily setting drama aside and picking up where the Lombards and the Hepburns left off, as she is co-starring with James Caan and Jeff Bridges in the romantic comedy called Kiss Me Goodbye. It's the eternal triangle with a haunting twist. Young widow falls in love, young widow decides to remarry, and then up pops the ghost of her late husband to spook the wedding plans.
So little fun around nowadays. Everything's down and terrible, and I wish somebody could just give me some fun just for a little while. And I think that's what this is, I hope.
Do you want to live here with your mother and your dead husband, or do you want to marry me? Which is it? Don't be too hasty. Well?
I want to marry you. I want to marry you, Rupert. I want to marry. I love you. I love you to pieces. I want to marry you, and I want to live in this house happily ever after.
That's all I wanted to hear.
Well, there you have it.
I just want to keep doing films that I'm glad I did. And when I'm 92 years old, I can look back and say, good girl. Good girl.
And hopefully Sally Field will continue to be a good girl in her acting ability for a long time. I'm Dino Lawley.
Perfect man.
Tom looks the role so well. This was the reason why I think we cast him. When Tom did the screen test with Sigrid Thornton, sparks flew. Within about 3 seconds of the on-camera, we knew we had the role cast. There was just no doubt about it. The two of them worked superlatively together.
A big part of the playing the character Jim Craig in the film was the romance, the story of the love story between the boy and the girl. I was lucky in that Sigrid and I became quite close during the filming. I mean, it's always easier if you like the person you're playing opposite.
You've got to treat the mountains like a high-spirited horse. Never take them for granted.
It's the same with people, too.
Man from Snowy River was a tremendous career opportunity for me. I've done a lot of thinking about it, but I just figure that in this business, you get a break.